Lost World Minutes, the Minute by Minute podcast reviewing 1997 sequel Jurassic Park, 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And today we're here to finish off the week with minute 70 of the Lost World. Dave, how are you going?
Good.
How's your wallet feel?
Actually surprisingly heavy. I actually haven't started my Christmas shopping yet.
Well, that's good. You might want to hold off because we've got a couple of... last week we sort of discussed Ironhead Studios had revealed the lower section of an Ian Malcolm figure in the lead up to the... I guess Brazil... Wouldn't be Brazil's the country. Whatever the local capital city there is, Comic-Con, in December. And this past week they've revealed the sort of the eye socket and top of the nose of the Jurassic Park female Tyrannosaur that we all know and love. Mm-hmm. And just yesterday, I believe, they hinted at Alan Grant, which...
Yeah, that's right. And they also hinted at a Ford Explorer as well.
Yeah, well, they sort of... That very first teaser, when they said they got the license, was that Inside Explorer shot. And now they've sort of released a photo of the cracked dirt road with that trackway going up the middle. I'd say not as screen accurate as I'd hoped for, but that's okay if they're just using it for a hint. I don't know if the Explorer itself will actually sit on that, but apparently everything they're doing is 1/10 scale, which... and they've sort of hinted it as well, or said that all these figures are meant to be displayed together, so better start making those renovations to build a new room on the back of the house because you're going to need the space.
Oh, definitely, man. My wallet is crying already.
Because 1/10 scale Rex, what was the Chronicle one? Was that 1/6?
I don't know you're talking about the Breakout Rex, right?
No, the big maquette that they...
Oh, the big maquette was 1/5, I want to say.
Okay. Because even that thing's big, but luckily this won't be as big as that.
No. No, it's going to be about half the size as that.
Damn, even that alone is going to be big.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see. I would not be surprised if there's a Muldoon, a Hammond, an Ellie, and maybe a Ray that we see next month as well. I think they're gonna whip the main cast out pretty quick for Jurassic Park. It's curious though, because this sort of all come up really quick, and we know sort of the problem Chronicle had with the head sculpts, and even sort of Hot Toys, some of the issues they have in time it takes to sculpt and all that. They must have been working on this for over a year, so I can't wait to see the final product.
And especially to reveal so much so quickly. You know that they've had this contract in the works for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, the Tyrannosaur's painted. Like, it's not... None of this is prototype. This looks like final production images.
Yeah.
And she's
I
painted...
gotta say, it all so far looks really good to me.
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing I'm sort of looking at the moment is all the bases for the two humans seem to be exactly the same, which, again, Hot Toys have done that since their induction, so... It's nothing new of just reusing the same base plates for them to stand on.
Yeah. No, and again, I'm not buying it for the base.
Oh no. And it's sort of they've said that the bases are not interlocking with each other.
No.
Even though they are all meant to display as one. So.
So hopefully it'll be almost like a diorama that you could kind of build yourself, you know.
Well, that's where I was talking to someone yesterday. Like, I'd just love if there's sort of the rest area set of just the fence that you can put the T-Rex behind with some plastic palm trees between the fence and it. Even have the goat there, and then you can have the Explorer sitting on the trackway with Grant and Malcolm sort of standing either side of the open Explorer door with a flare in their hand. Would just be fantastic. But money-wise, it's not going to be fantastic, so...
No.
I'm sure all this stuff's going to be fantastic, but I might be stuck looking at the Mattel and Lego collectibles for this one. But it's just good to see that sort of after the success of Jurassic Park, The license is getting out there to more than just Hasbro, and a lot of people are having a go at it, and we're not just getting Jurassic World themed stuff for the upcoming film. We're getting this previous stuff as well, which we've said it all the time that the franchise has been pretty maltreated over the years with collectibles and that sort of stuff. So.
So yeah, Jurassic Park. The fans really need this, and it's great that we're finally getting it. You know.
Yep. I just hope they're made in a number that are sort of accessible to most. I'd hate in 5 years' time have this thing sort of in collectors' hands and no longer available, and then the price is doubled and stuff like that. But definitely exciting. Next week or two, we should be able to see some of that stuff in all their glory. God, I wonder if that Richard Kiley voiceover in the teaser was a hint that the Explorer's going to have lights and sounds, or some sort of sound gimmick.
It might. That would be interesting.
It adds another 0 to the price.
Yeah, that's right, it does.
Sarah, when Hammond called you, why didn't you say something to me?
Because I knew you would have stopped me from coming.
I would have tied you to the bed.
Ready to get into minute 70.
Sure.
All right. As we enter minute 69 of Lost World, the survivors start their trek towards the island interior. As we start minute 70, after hearing an animal roar in the distance, Roland signals for the group to pick up the pace and keep moving. At 69 minutes and 5 seconds, we cut inside the redwood forest once again, where Ian's helping Kelly, who's exhausted. Sarah walks past a fern, leaving a trail of blood from a soaked jacket. 69 minutes and 20 seconds, Roland puts his hand in the air and tells the group to take a break. 5 minutes. As Sarah walks past him, he inspects the jacket and the large bloody spots on her chest and sleeve. 69 minutes and 30 seconds, he comes over to Sarah, where she's just sat down on a log, and puts his rifle up against a tree. He kneels down in front of her and asks if she's injured. Sarah looks at him awkwardly and says, "Huh?" Roland points to her jacket. Sarah looks down at the bloodstained jacket and says, "No, it's from the baby. I said it's broken leg. It's just not drying in the humidity." 69 minutes and 43 seconds, the pair are broken up by Ludlow, asking Roland for a word, and he'd like to know where the hell they are. 69 minutes and 49 seconds as the pair walk away, Nick comes over and sits down next to Sarah. Says, "Making friends with Ahab, huh?" And as we end minute 70, Nick moves his fingers through his hair and looks over at Roland's rifle, leaning against a tree still. And this ends minute 70 of The Lost World. At the minute of 69, we heard the roar. As we said last minute, we're not exactly sure what that was, if it was to be hinted at the Tyrannosaur following them, or if it was just meant to be something else to say, hey, there are animals on this island now, even though we don't see any for a good chunk of the film here. But Roland sort of scans the area behind him before waving the group on to keep moving, and we cut to back in the redwood forest again.
Yep.
Ian's sort of pretty much carrying Kelly at this point by the shoulders, like just showing that exhaustion of how far they've walked.
These next couple minutes here that are really the last we see of the redwoods in this movie, and it's just like this one little patch here, which they actually filmed at Patrick's Point again. The shot of the rock there is actually the behind of the rock that they climb in order to view the dinosaurs from that valley, from that plains.
Oh, okay, yep.
And I have some pictures of behind it, so I can definitely post it.
Yep, lovely. Because the group's sort of making their way down. It seems like a slight little hill here they're going down, but going down through the ferns.
There's actually steps there. You can't see it in the film only because they clever camera techniques, but yeah, there are steps there.
Yeah, well, it definitely, you can sort of see here how Sarah's walking and how sort of Ian's sort of stepping down, carrying Kelly as well. But as you said, yep, it's all covered up. Sarah brushes.
They also use it cleverly. You can see that they never actually show anything below their waist. You know.
Yeah. Yep. We get Sarah here. She sort of brushes past a fern, behind Roland's walking. No, sorry, behind Roland then walks past the same fern and notices a lot of bright red fresh blood on it.
Mm-hmm. So you can of course see fresh and glistening on her shirt.
Her
Jacket, I should say.
Yep, and sort of he gets a sort of a worried look on his face and raises his hand, tells the group take a break 5 minutes. Pretty much as soon as he says that, the group breaks up and Sarah walks past him, which a little sign that some time has passed since noticing the blood, because he managed to get himself to the front of the pack again, or to the group. But Sarah walks past Roland and sits down on a log next to a tree. Roland walks over in front of her and takes his hat off, and sits his gun down and leans it against a tree behind her. Kneels down and asks her if she's injured.
And this scene was actually filmed at a different area, a completely different area. It was in the Prairie Creek area where they filmed the Stegosaurus shots and the walk back after the Stegosaurus attack.
It definitely feels...
You actually see in the background behind Sarah when she walks up the same exact... they call them chandelier redwoods because they're a grouping of all of, like, a bunch of trees just kind of grown in together. And they that's the exact same tree mass of trees that they walk by when Nick and Sarah and Ian and Eddie are walking back to the campsite.
Yeah, because I was going to ask that, because I think in one shot here we see there's a big redwood sort of 6 or 7 feet off the ground, laying, must be across a stump or something that's sort of familiar from that earlier scene. And I just wonder how many times they sort of, alright, walk left, walk right, just sort of getting some stock footage, not stock footage, but just some B-roll of them just trekking through the redwoods that they could have used if they sort of needed to fill in a bit of a montage here of their trek through the forest.
Yeah, I definitely would love to see a B-roll of this movie, you know?
Stephen on a PA. Okay, everyone turn around, walk back towards the camera. Just back and forth.
Oh, I'm sure that comes with the job.
Yeah, yep. Well, at least it's not raining now. But Sarah sort of looks weirdly at Roland, just like, huh? And he points to the large red stain that you can see all up her left arm and her torso, and pretty much her whole right-hand side of the jacket's drenched in red blood. She sort of grabs the material, moves around her hands, and says, "Oh no, it's from the baby. I said it's broken leg. It's just not drying in the humidity." Which we see now how heavy it was raining the night before. The fact there's that much blood there still. We then get Ludlow's voice come over asking Roland for a word, and he turns and stands and joins Ludlow's side, and Ludlow's holding the map and says, "I'd love to know where we are." So,
and he just says it so nastily too. Like, would you just tell us where we are? Like, I have other things I want to do today. You know?
yeah. I definitely see this as Roland's holding out on where they actually are. Because
but I mean, he feels so insistent about it. You know?
Yeah.
The way he says it.
And it's still those two sort of walk off then, and I could just see them both arguing about, well, we're here somewhere, and Ludlow, well, where exactly are we? And just, you don't need to know. Just make sure the men have got their water.
Yep.
As the two walk off, Nick sort of comes past them and comes over and sits down beside Sarah, and says, "You're making friends with Ahab, huh?" Which is a good little sting there at Roland.
I take issue with that insult.
Oh, okay.
Roland is nothing like Ahab. If you read the original Moby Dick, Ahab is just as maniacal and obsessive and as dangerous, I'd call him, as he is portrayed in the movies. He is just so focused on finding this whale that he really neglects his crew, and he neglects everything. He doesn't even come up above out of his cabin until like they're halfway across the ocean in the book.
Hmm.
And Roland is just nothing like that. He's the complete opposite.
Yeah, it's very, very obsessive. Which I'd nearly classify that more with Muldoon.
Yeah.
The way he sort of obsesses over the raptors at the end there. When they find the raptors have escaped, he's sort of mumbling himself that the shut-off took out all the fences, and you better mess with the raptor fences, and he's sort of mumbling to himself and takes his hat off for a moment and just realises that Ellie's behind him, and just instead of saying, okay, you go back to safety, or we need another gun, it's sort of, come on this way, it's alright, which it isn't at all. And he should know better than that, but he takes Ellie along into a more dangerous area where we see what happens. He sees the raptor, and again, his better judgment should say, this is not right, this one's just standing in front of you, why is it ignoring you? And he pays for that price.
Yeah.
I'd love a little cutscene at the end with Roland in the belly of the raptor with a candle. Like, just shaking his head.
I would have to say that of all the characters Spielberg has ever done, Quint from Jaws is the most like Ahab.
Oh,
he's
yes.
ever done.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, agreed. Even sort of the other stuff, like just smashing the radio and going, no, we're not going back. We're out here, we're getting that shark. So...
I managed to catch the last 20 minutes of Jaws the other night, and I was watching it, and it was the part where they're trying to lead the shark back into shore so that they can drown him in the shallows.
Yeah,
and Quint, by this point in the movie, has gone completely off the deep end, and he's not coming back.
But then... And everyone talks about how lucky it was the shark didn't work, just to make it more suspenseful and that. But just the acting alone just is so fantastic. Just pretty much the three of them. Once they leave Amity and get out on the ocean, even though most of it's shot making it look like they're out in the ocean, but they're still in the bay. But it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's sort of little bits like that are dotted throughout his later films as well.
No, Spielberg, I mean, we're just talking in general right now, but Spielberg is just one of the best directors, and I'm very glad I've been privileged to live in the same world with Steven Spielberg.
And even sort of as you was talking about being able to see it on TV, normally for these notes, I'm watching this film, The Lost World, on my iPad and that, where a lot of detail gets missed out. I'll do the recordings for the minute recaps normally after we finish this record, and you see stuff that you didn't realise before, and oh damn it, we've missed out on that now. But last night, flicked the channel over on the TV, and The Lost World was actually on, just as they'll get into Eddie's warehouse. So just sitting down watching it on the screen, like 42-inch TV, just again noticing things, and definitely a lot of the environmental stuff once they get to the island. Here when they're trekking through the jungle as they get to the worker village, and then on to the San Diego. It looks great. I need to get a higher def version on my iPad to watch. But back to the minute. It's real. We get back to the minute here at the very end where they both sort of laugh off the Ahab comment, and Nick sort of leans over and runs his hand through his hair and looks across, and there's Roland's gun still leaning up against the tree. And he just sort of sits there and looks at it for a moment, and that's where we end the minute, and that's where we cut to, because it pretty much the next minute starts straight off as Dieter's walking to the little girl's room, or the little boy's room. But in the pre-San Diego script, we see the survivors getting tired and gaps starting to appear in the column and the line. And it's actually Nick that confronts Roland and says the group needs a break. Roland sort of pushes it, no, we'll give him another half an hour. But Nick fights back and says, no, they won't make it half an hour. You got men here on the verge of collapse. And if you don't call the break, I will. And they sort of, we've come too far to start dropping in the middle of the jungle, which sort of gets Roland looking at Nick for a long time sternly before he finally calls the break. And as soon as he does, the men pretty much just collapse where they are, which we sort of see here as well. Just showing that they've been walking, okay, all or most of the previous night and this morning as well. Because it's really here we get this little bit with Deter coming up with the compies, and then it's night again on the ridge before they make their descent to the worker village. So you could say it's probably lunchtime now where they're here at this, taking this break. So they've been walking for at least 12 hours.
Yeah.
In the shooting script also, there's more between Roland and Sarah. After she said it's not drying in the humidity, the blood, Roland sort of thinks for a moment, takes off a boot and removes some pebbles that are in there. And and he says to her, "You've been wearing it all night?" And Sarah replies, "Yeah, why?" But then the two are interrupted by Ludlow. So Roland's sort of getting onto that idea that the blood may not be a good thing on that jacket, and it's the only thing that the Tyrannosaurs would be smelling to track them as well. But it's just weird it's still there after the rain, the downpour they had that night, and now most of them, their clothes look dry, so the water's been able to dry overnight, but the blood hasn't during the day. There's also a sort of a scene added in between Sarah and Kelly, where it was after sort of the ranting Malcolm was doing in the previous minute we discussed, where Kelly says her dad doesn't think they're going to make it off the island alive, and Sarah sort of tells her dad's wrong about a lot of things, which was an interesting thing as well, I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And then one little thing here, in the pre-San Diego script, we had the character of Dr. Judson, which was sort of a rival paleontologist to Burke, and they sort of bicker a lot here during this sort of break scene. But Burke sort of storms off after being told his research is wrong or something, and sits down on a rock and finds a large oval egg about 8 inches long, which he then picks up and puts in his bag, which I could only think of was a bit of a hint at what we see later on in Jurassic Park 3. I haven't read...
I think that's probably where they got the idea from in that movie.
Yeah, I haven't read any further in the script, and I'm just interesting to see what sort of happens here, because we know in the pre-San Diego script that the final sort of act was all in the worker village, so I wonder if there's some scene there with Burke being killed or being caught with the raptor, with the egg. Being 8 inches long, I'd assume it's probably a little bit too big to be a raptor egg, but...
It does come up later.
Okay.
Yeah, it does come up in the next scene, actually.
Okay. It's just... Yeah, that's alright. It's just interesting that the egg's sort of laying there behind this rock, and it doesn't seem to have an established nest, but... Again, I might read that, so... Also here, Nick, in the script as well, Ian's sort of checking Nick's bag, which is full of the videotapes from all the footage they've taken. And he and Sarah have sort of a back and forth about what's going to happen when they get back home. Sarah doesn't think the public's going to think the tapes are real, that they'll be fake, a good studio doctorate, or sort of fake dinosaurs being seen. And she says in that script, she tells Ian the only way people will believe dinosaurs exist is if you dump a T-Rex in the middle of Times Square. Which, again, that script being what it was, and before they changed it to San Diego, it's sort of... it's just interesting that come up there, where we see that in this film. They've gone there to document, as far all their equipment's gone over the cliff, so they've no longer got the evidence they need to preserve the island. But it's going to be InGen that take the T-Rex back and drop it right in the middle of San Diego. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Two little bits there that were in the early script and sort of lead to other things that aren't in this script, so except for the Rex. But that's all my notes on minute 70. David, anything else you want to get to for the week?
I think it's interesting that we do get that little tiny tidbit of what would become the San Diego scene in this script. And I think that because that line's only in there because Spielberg wanted the San Diego scene in the first place, and if he was like, well, if I'm not going to get it, at least I'll always have this hint to it. Yeah,
and I wonder, because the investment speech isn't in the pre-San Diego script, so I wonder if in the film it's got to be San Diego because that's where Jurassic Park San Diego is. But I wonder if there was a point where they were sort of looking, okay, can we drop a T-Rex? How do we get a T-Rex to New York? Because that's presumably where Eddie's workshop is and where the team's left from. Because that's another thing with being able to see the TV on a big screen too. At home, you definitely notice the New York license plate on Nick's van this time. I did notice. So yeah, it's just interesting how all that might have played into what we got and what we might have seen. So that's all right. I'm going to go and read the next part of the script now to be ready for next week.
All right.
Because we always get sort of references from the books used in later films. I just thought this was really interesting that something from a script, whether it reads like, "No, we're going to use this for the next film."
Well, Joe Johnston originally wanted to direct The Lost World.
Yeah.
But Spielberg turned him down because he wanted to direct it, and he promised the third to him.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting. Have you got The Lost World on Blu-ray?
I do, yes.
Has it got a different behind the scenes to the DVD?
Well, I have the Ultimate Collector's Edition.
That's the free pack.
What?
That's the free pack. Right? Blu-ray. The Blu-ray free pack. Yep.
Yeah. And then I also have it on DVD. So yeah, I have both. And
they're both the same behind the scenes featurettes.
Yeah. Okay. Where they have the Return to Jurassic Park and the Lost World on it.
Okay. Yep. The Return to the Lost World, has that got a lot of sort of marketing stuff?
It's basically everybody talking about the movie with the making of the movie with new additions of footage and new behind the scenes images inserted into it.
So it was definitely made post the movie coming out.
Yeah, no, it was put out for the in 2011, I want to say. Okay,
because has it got Julianne Moore and it's sitting in that little shack that looks like something from the Worker Village? And she's talking.
So.
Okay, because I've seen that little cut.
Wait, what is she doing?
She's talking about something in the film, and she's standing in this little set that's sort of, you know, that those couple of pictures you showed with the production stuff on the walls, and you've got like the old blinds. She's sort of sitting in a little room like that.
Yeah.
Because I think her hair's in more of a bob or something, like a bowl cut as well. It's not the long locks. Because I think she was already onto another film by then, but that's all right there. I just wanted to see, because I've got the two. I think it was the first time Lost World and Jurassic Park come out on DVD, where it's a 2-pack, and it's just sort of got the basic behind the scenes there. And it's just, if they're talking, you got behind the scenes stuff, but it's mainly just saying, oh, this film's going to be fantastic, and that sort of behind the scenes stuff, which I don't really like much because it's on the DVD. We've obviously seen the film. Just tell us.
All right, guys, let's get the hell out of here.
Contact details are on the website, thelostworldminute.com. You can email feedback to thelostworldminute@gmail.com, Facebook, The Lost World Minute, Twitter @thelostworldminute, and Instagram, The Lost World Minute.
Easy to remember.
Yeah, very easy to remember. Right. David, thank you for joining me for this record.
Welcome.
And we'll be back. I've been Brad.
I'm Dave.
And we'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
It is absolutely imperative that we work with the Costa Rican Department of Biological Preserves to establish a set of rules for the preservation and isolation of that island. These creatures require our absence to survive, not our help. And if we could only step aside and trust in nature,